Hello and welcome back. My name is Paminas Wainaina and I'm the CEO of Corporate Staffing Services, a leading HR and recruitment firm right here in Westlands, Nairobi. I know it's been a while since I posted, but the break is over. I'm back and I'm ready to engage you regularly on the topics that truly matter in empowering you as a modern HR professional. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, because you can't scroll through LinkedIn or read the newspapers without seeing headlines such as this: employee so and so wins big against a major company, or company X ordered to pay millions for unfair sacking. The sheer volume of these court victories for employees in Kenya is raising a tough but painful question that we as HR professionals have to answer. Where is HR in Kenya? Is our advice being ignored? Or is there a dangerous, expensive gap between the HR theory we learned in college or university and the harsh corporate reality we face every day, practicing as HR professionals? So I want you to think back to university. In your HR class, you and I were taught the beautiful theory that HR is strategic, that we are supposed to be business partners. In fact, the titles have now changed to HR business partner. That we are supposed to be the champions for everyone, from the staff, the management, the culture, and the business. We learned about fairness and about building trust. But the truth is, many businesses in Kenya and decision makers still view HR as administrative. HR is seen as the people who manage payroll, organize interviews, arrange Christmas parties now that we are headed to December, and process leave forms. They see us as an expense, not an asset. I know there are a few exceptions, but majority of the organizations, that's how they view HR. So when as HRs we advise on fair labor practices, due process in terminations, our warnings are often ignored. Then when the court orders a massive payout, suddenly we are the ones under fire for a lack of compliance, even though the final risky decision was made by the CEO or the board. This is the corporate reality in Kenya that is burning out HR professionals. But don't forget, we are the bridge between the law and the company, between human needs and the business demands. And when that bridge is ignored, we are the first to collapse. So as a HR, how do you handle the mental frustration of wanting to do things right or by the book, but being overruled? How do you protect yourself? So I'm going to share with you tips that you need to be aware of in this era. So tip number one, or advice number one, is document. Dear HR, the paper trail will be your defense. So every piece of advice you give, especially on high-risk decisions must be in writing. When you advise the CEO or the management against a specific action, for example, terminating an employee without a proper hearing, you clearly state the specific legal section. For example, Section 41 of the Employment Act on procedural fairness. And even you can extend it and even mention the potential financial risk. For example, up to 12 months gross salary in compensation, and damages. So if you do this and your recommendation is overruled by a senior leader or the board, request a formal memo or board resolution acknowledging your advice and instructing you to proceed with the other direction, which is wrongful. So dear HR, this will be your shield. And what it does, it shifts accountability to the ultimate decision maker. It becomes their decision, not your decision. My second advice to you, HR, is that we must learn to speak the language of business. And the language of business is one of risk and money. So when you're having conversations with the decision makers, with your CEOs, with the board, stop leading with policy and start leading with litigation risk and financial loss. Businesses understand numbers. So instead of saying our policy requires a second warning, what do you say? You tell the board, you tell the CEO, you tell the other manager that proceeding without a final warning, according to recent employment court ruling, exposes the company to an estimated Kenya shilling million in unlawful termination damages and a legal defense cost of this amount. So dear HR, you should use court rulings as your backup. For example, just this month, Nairobi Hospital, the CEO won over 200 million Kenya shillings because of unlawful termination. The hospital has gone back to the Court of Appeal, but we've had other cases where the employees have won, and they've won in the millions. So always use these case studies to back up your argument. So if you follow that advice, how do you take care of your mental well-being? That's something else I want us to consider. So as HR professionals, we carry the emotional load of the company. We mediate conflicts, we manage burnout from the staff, and we even deliver the hardest news. And the unfortunate thing is that we then get hit with the frustration of our own advice being ignored. So if you are watching this and you're feeling fatigued, overwhelmed, or burnout, please remember these points. Number one, you need to start separating decisions from advice. So as a HR, you are responsible for giving the correct legal advice or professional advice. You are not responsible for a decision made by others that goes against that advice. So what do I recommend to you? You should give the advice, document the pushback, have the emails, have the memo, and then release the guilt from your side because you've done all you could. My second advice on how to take care of your mental health is to build your HR network. So connect with other HR professionals, share your frustration and strategies in a safe, confidential space. This way you are going to learn that you're not alone in this fight. Yeah? When you share experiences, you become better. We learn from each other. As I come to the end, my final word to you is that you're not alone. To every HR professional watching this, please listen closely. When you give the right advice, and that advice is ignored by the CEO or the board, and it ultimately leads to an expensive, highly publicized loss in the employment court, that is not your failure. You did your job. You are the professional who highlighted the risk. Your professional integrity is not measured by the decision others make, but by the quality of the advice you provide and the documentation you keep. If the decision makers choose to drive the car off the cliff, your job was to clearly warn them about the cliff. You are not the person who steered the wheel. And finally, if you find yourself in an organization where your professional advice is consistently overruled, or you're constantly feeling guilt, stress, and frustration because of the toxic culture, or you are blamed for consequences of decisions that you did not make, then it might be time for you to look for an environment that values your expertise, respects your professional integrity, and sees you as a strategic leader you are. I know there are not many companies. Majority of the companies just would love to see HR as purely administrative. But there are few out there who see HR as a valuable contributor in the organization. Let me remind you that your well-being matters more than any job title. Do not let a toxic organizational culture shatter your passion for HR. As I said, there are companies out there that see HR as a strategic partner, not just as an administrator. As I conclude, we are in this together. So stay strong, keep your documents clean, and remember your worth. I look forward to sharing more advice next week. Until then, stay strong, stay compliant, and keep documenting. See you next week.